Hi, welcome to Box on the Box Rock and Celluloid, Bok Brak for short. I'm Edward Box. So today I've got an album review and it's KK's Priest. That's KK Downing's own sort of Judas Priest band, and it's The Sinner Rides Again. So this is their sophomore release. They did Sermons of the Sinner back in 2021, already 2 years ago, thereabouts. So they fairly churned this out. Obviously didn't tour on the back of the first album. But now they've been playing festivals, went down very well at the Bloodstock Festival, apparently a late replacement, and they've got a tour coming up and so on, so things are stepping up for them. So what I should say is, like with Sermons of the Sinner, I thought it was alright, you know. I was kind of charitable about it, I guess, in the sense that I love KK Downing, he was in Judas Priest, so, you know, if he wants to do his own band, Priest-style band with Ripper Owens or whatever, fine. I'm sure there's some I like there. And there's a lot of elements I liked, but I felt there's a lot of issues with it. I think this new album's a little better. There's still issues I've got. But I think the thing is, with a project like this, it's not about making a great album. It's about getting products out there to establish your name, to have enough tracks that you can play live and sit alongside those Priest classics, because that's really what people are going to go for. I think the band would be wise to keep it certainly 60, 40, 70, 30 in favour of Judas Priest classics, and I would be looking at doing deeper cuts. I know they do Breaking the Law, they shouldn't do any more stuff like that. Definitely, you know, try and differentiate from the regular Judas Priest and what they play. So again, I think KK's written, produced all this. I think it's got a better sound, this album. It's 40 minutes and 25 seconds long. Pretty short by today's sound. It's quite interesting, only 9 tracks on it. I quite like this. For those who are Judas Priest fans, you know that typically old Judas Priest albums had 8 or 9 tracks quite often, and would typically be the length of about 38 minutes. So it's kind of in that old school vibe. So it opens with Sons of the Sentinel. So let's get this out here as well. Obviously he's using Priest-style titles again, which again I understand calling the album The Sinner Rides Again. Cool artwork and cool logo. Got to be fair that. I'd prefer if he'd call it KK's Hellion or KK's Vengeance or something. KK's Vengeance, KK's Retribution. Everyone knows who KK Downing is, you know. If you're into heavy metal, you know Judas Priest style. So I feel the word KK, I don't think you need to use the Priest word. And I don't think he needs to use Priest references. Having one in's okay. Maybe The Sinner Rides Again is quite cool, but you know, this has got one more shot at glory. And the previous album had the Return of the Sentinel and so on. But anyway, the opening track, it's a good opening. It's got a catchy chorus. It's up tempo. It's got a cool drum intro. I think, again, like, it's got like there's a lot of little sort of slow intros on this album, which was something that was prevalent on the previous record. So we'll come to those, but I think this is a good opening track. I like it. It's got quite a catchy chorus. Sometimes on the last album there wasn't enough melody for me. Ripper's vocals tend to be very aggressive, tending to be with high screaming harmonies and low sort of growls, often multi-tracking. So this is quite refreshing. It's got a good lead break as well. It's a really good trade-off between KK Downing and AJ. Sorry, I've forgotten his name again. But his other player, he looks ironically a bit like Richie Faulkner. And it differentiates reasonably well. I think sometimes they kind of sounded a bit too similar on the last album. Next up, Strike of the Viper. I think this is a track that got quite a bit of traction online. This I was quite surprised by this. It's really short, 2 minutes 25, and it's just really fucking intense. It's just basically fucking straight through. And this is maybe certainly one of the best tracks on the album, I think. Then you got Reap the Whirlwind. I think the standard dips a bit here. Last time I listened to it, I was like, it's kind of like Free Will Burning, the riff. It's quite a catchy chorus though, so it's all right. That's one of the things with the KK's Priest, the previous album. Listen to this, it makes you realise what riffs KK Downing wrote for Judas Priest. You can clearly hear his style of riff. And then obviously with the choice of songs I've played as well live, that tells you something. So that's been quite intriguing. Next up's One More Shot of Glory. This is 4 minutes 29. Again, this was the first track released. I do like this. It's got a really intense staccato 12/8 riff. There's a bit too much 12/8 on the album, but anyway, it's got a good hook. The intro's quite interesting. I think it's in 10/8 or 5/4. But again, it's kind of like a slow intro, and then the riff comes in. You don't need that. I mean, you could, if you cut all the intros on this album and weird little things like that, you could probably cut 2 or 3 minutes and maybe have had another track and still kept the same length. So again, off the bat, you know, another good track. And then you've got Hymn 66. So this has got stupid dynamic lyrics, and it's got a stupid spoken word intro. If you remember on the last album, it had an intro called Incantation. It was all a bit satanic, more like something like Merciful Fate or King Diamond would do. Again, I guess that appeals into the European market, you know, KK's market for this. It's not going to be the US. You know, it's too big a nut to crack that. The UK, well, yes, but principally Europe. So I suppose there's logic there, going like really intense. But it's got an evil Slayer riff. I was really surprised by the intensity on this riffage. I think AJ opens the riffage. It's a really good rhythm sound. Yeah, so I enjoyed this track as well. You know, a few reservations aside, if you go on YouTube, the video is quite funny. It's just all like kind of eyes wide shut, gone really dynamic. Okay, and then you've got the Sinner Rides again. This is track 6, 4 minutes 41. Again, this has got probably the best chorus on the album. More choruses like this in the future will do the band a world of good. It's got a nice clean intro, but it's another intro. Again, heavy riffage, good mix on this track. And that's the first front 6 album, and I think that's pretty decent. I think the last album, although it has stupid lyrics, I did like Brothers of the Road. I thought it was catchy. There was Sacro Mento del, some Spanish title, sorry. That was good. And there's a couple other things, but it tends to have funny arrangements. This is arranged a bit better. There's still some funny quirks, but things kind of tail off on track 7, 8, 9. Track 7 is Keeper of the Graves. This is 5 minutes 42. So this opens with an ominous bell and then a sort of Gregorian type demonic style chant. And then it's got like a high harmonies at the end, Doom. It's got a nice sort of Maiden groove. I think I read somewhere online, I think a comment was like comparing the intros to having those sort of longer intros like the Maiden do now, which is an interesting point. There's quite a lot of whoa-oh-ohs on this album. There wasn't the last album. Raise Your Fists, actually, that was quite a catchy track off the last album. So again, that's designed for the European festival market. You know, you get your tracks out there. People can sing along with the whoa-oh-ohs and drink a beer. So, yeah. Then track 8 is Pledge Your Souls. It's about pledging your souls to metal. It's more 12/8 time. It's got a lot of whoa-oh-ohs. There's another unnecessary intro, but it's a strange thing of fading out. This was quite, on the last time, I think the Return of the Sentinel faded out, but in quite a cool way. But this and the next track both fade out, and it feels like they're kind of unfinished. Maybe this album's had to get the press pretty quick. I don't know. Next up is Wash Away Your Sins. This is the longest track on the album, 6 minutes 29. Guess it's got another Doom intro with Doom talking. It's got more 12/8. It's got another strange fade out. It has got a really good solo by AJ, probably the best solo on the album. Yeah, so I find the last 3 tracks less assured. You know, I've got my issues, and I've got quite a few issues with the other tracks, but at the end of the day, I do think this is a solid 6 out of 10. You know, it's like the first album. It's, you know, I'd love for KK Downing and KK's Priest to make an amazing record, but it's really about producing 2 or 3 tracks off each album that can be rotated live, and the rest is going to be made up by top Priest stuff. But there is an improvement here, better artwork, some cool videos again. I think Ripper sings a bit better. There's some better arranging, some better lead playing and so on. I think as well, you have to give them credit. You know, they did sort of they've done a good job with the videos on this album before. They haven't half-cocked it. They've got the stage outfits. They've got all the graphics together. They've got all the imagery together, and that won't have been cheap. Although you can do that cheaper now, KK Downing's probably invested quite a bit of money to get this up and running, seed money, so to speak. And obviously, hopefully, live is where it's going to pay off for them with fees and performances. Merchandise, and again, it has got cool branding. I'd imagine in the summer season, you know, in festivals, you can play 2-3 festivals in a weekend if you can get to them, these bands. So that'll be where things really pay off for them, I think. Okay, so that is my review of Sinner Rides again. In summing up, if you enjoyed Sermons of the Sinner, you'll enjoy this. If you didn't like Sermons of the Sinner, you won't like this. if you're like me, kind of in between, I'm kind of like reading between the lines really on what it is. I think things are heading in a better direction, but I still think there's a lot of improvement to come. So maybe next album we'll get the kind of more the cracker, hopefully, that they can do. Okay, so see you again. Remember to share and subscribe. Thanks so much.